Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hey, good morning, Edge. I think it's Friday. It's the 22nd of Janvier, and everybody is waiting breathlessly for the snow to come. We're on the edge. No matter what we get, it won't in any way touch what those folks on the coast and in the south are going to get hammered with. Yike. I read an interesting article, very scientific article, yesterday about how this does everything is in place to make this a perfect storm, which is why you are hearing these, dire warnings. The guy who I guess is the expert, he's written the book, literally, on coastal storms. He says, wow, this is, this is the model that you look at, that you would draw up if you want to make a storm of the century. And apparently it's all just falling into place. Has to do with a sort of stationary high-pressure system, I think, in the north of us. And then this low pressure coming in through the Gulf, pulling in all that moisture. It has to do with temperature differentials, has to do also with the very fact that it's happening at a full moon, apparently, is going to exacerbate things too, because the tides are higher. I don't know. I feel for people, because these people are not really ready for this kind of storm, as we saw just a day ago in Washington, D.C. So some emergency guy in D.C. was telling people to get food in your house, and he said not for the weekend, for a week. They're literally fearful that the place will be closed down for a week. And because there'll be icing and heavy snow, you're going to see probably as many as millions of people deprived of power. And, of course, with it being cold and windy and no power and no ability to get out, that's rough. People are going to die in this. And I don't know. And this is also because of the El Nino being supersized this year. By the way, I was doing a crossword puzzle yesterday, and the clue was weather phenomenon named after the baby Jesus. I said, what? And, as I filled things in, it was El Nino. It's named after Jesus? Why would they name something that can create all this horror after a little baby? Jeez. I'm literally us. So, God almighty. Maybe you've seen this, but I just did. I'm going to pass it on to you. And I'm sorry because the subject is Trump. Has anyone responded to me about, I should look on my own. Remember I have asked this before, early in the political presidential season, the Huffington Post huffily said that they would not deign to cover Donald Trump on its political pages. It would only cover him, I guess, in entertainment, which is what he is. Have they backtracked a little bit because his poll numbers are continuing to rise, and he is frighteningly really looking like he might be the candidate. Howard Feynman Pittsburgh native and national journalist, tweeted yesterday that, it's possible that this election could see both parties' nominees being people who don't really belong to the parties. Wow. So Donald Trump, sorry, but we got to talk about him because, in fact, you're looking at potentially your next president. So we know he comes from wealth. We know his daddy was a real estate developer and had already amassed a large fortune, so that the Donald grew up in quite a bit of luxury. His father made a whole ton of money. Listen to this. This is an interesting fact. Made a whole ton of money in the 50s and 60s when the federal government, attempting to help the states and municipalities who were trying to build affordable housing, low-cost housing projects, decided to step in and began issuing subsidies, federal subsidies and nice deals to developers who would put up these low-cost housing developments. Fred Trump, Donald's dad, was like first in line. He was bang, right on it. And he made millions on this. He was, in fact, investigated by a congressional committee in the 50s for profiteering off of public contracts. So here's Donald Trump, and a lot of that wealth comes from taxpayer dollars, from his daddy's biz. So Fred Trump puts up a lot of public housing projects and is enriched greatly. One of Trump's tenants is a man who leased the apartment in 1950. You might, and this was in Brooklyn, you might know the name, Woody Guthrie. So Woody Guthrie, not a rich man, moves into one of Trump's public housing projects. And as he lives there, he becomes increasingly disgusted by what he sees happening around him. He finds himself living in an all-white public housing project. And he could see that black people were turned away. And he began writing about it. 1 year into this, his residency at a place that was called Beach Haven, he started going after his landlord. And Guthrie's notebooks, which he kept, have a lot of entries about his dream of smashing the color lines that the Trump complex clearly represented. In fact, here's a little snippet from one of his notebooks. He envisions, instead of what is there, which is a blinding white monochromatic scene, he envisions this. These are his words, Woody Guthrie's words. A face of every bright color, laughing and joshing in these old, darkly weeperish, empty, shadowed windows. And then he goes on to imagine the Negro girl yonder that walks along against this headwind, holding on to her purse. I welcome you here to live. I welcome you and your man both here to Beach Haven, to love in any ways you please, and to have some kind of a decent place to get pregnant in and to have your kids raised up in. I'm yelling out my own welcome to you. So for Woody Guthrie, Fred Trump came to personify the viciousness of American racism and the racist codes that denied people of color decent housing, even in public housing, built in large part by tax dollars to which those people of color contributed. They pay taxes. Their taxes go to build public housing. Nowhere did it say whites only, but Fred Trump, who is becoming a mega millionaire, enforces his racist code. Here's another Guthrie notebook entry. I suppose old man Trump knows just how much racial hate he stirred up in the blood pot of human hearts when he drawed that color line here at his 1800 family project. I assume 1800 was the address. Did you guys know this? Am I coming late to this? No. And he also reworked one of his signature Dust Bowl ballads called I Ain't Got No Home into a diatribe against the Donald's dad. In part, it reads, Beach Haven ain't my home. I just can't pay this rent. My money's down the drain and my soul is badly bent. Beach Haven looks like heaven where no black ones come to roam. No, old man Trump, old Beach Haven ain't my home. Long after Guthrie's death, the Village Voice in the late 70s did a expose about Fred and, at that point, his son actively working with him, their real estate empire. And it devoted an awful lot of attention to cases brought against the Trumps by the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department. And a major charge was that racially discriminatory conduct by Trump agents had created a substantial impediment to equal opportunity. Here's a little line from it. According to court records, 4 superintendents or rental agents confirmed that applicants sent to the Trump office for acceptance or rejection were coded by race. 3 doormen were told to discourage blacks who came seeking apartments when the manager was out, either by claiming there were no vacancies or by hiking up the rents. A super said he was instructed to send black applicants to the central office, but to accept white applicants on site. Another rental agent said that Fred Trump had instructed him not to rent to blacks. Further, the agent said Trump wanted to decrease the number of black tenants already in the development by encouraging them to locate elsewhere. Now, I just want to throw in here that at this time in the 60s, the 70s, and frankly, we could go further into the calendar, bringing it much closer to home, this kind of thing was going on all over the country all the time. It was clearly going on here in Pittsburgh, too, right? This is one of the most segregated cities in the country. You know, I happened to hear, oh, God, why am I blanking on his name? The talk jock at the big AM station in the morning, Marty Griffin. I happened to hear him the other day. He's born in this area, raised in this area. He's a Pittsburgher. But when he was starting his career, he moved. And he lived in Texas. He lived in Tulsa. He lived in L.A. He had jobs all over the place. And he said when he finally got the chance to come back here to KDKA, having lived in all those other places, having left Pittsburgh and seen the world beyond it, when he came back, for the first time, he saw what I saw when I came here, because when you come from outside, you see it. He said he saw the most racist city he'd ever been in. And understand, he lived mostly in the South. He lived in Dallas. He lived in Tulsa. He lived in places in the South. He never saw racism with his now more worldly view. He never saw segregation like he sees it here. And that, too, was my reaction coming here in 1981. I was stunned by it. If you've lived here all your lives, you don't know it. Or you don't, I mean, because it is what is. You don't see your own place. It's what we were talking about the other day, how immigrants are so valuable, and you can consider me an immigrant here, because we bring a different perspective. We bring new ideas and ways of maybe approaching something. Even moving from city to city or state to state. And Pittsburgh, as we know, is a place that people stick to. They don't move. And if they do, man, they can't wait to get back, which says something sort of wonderful about Pittsburgh. But let me tell you something. It's white people who want to come back. It's black people who want to get the hell out of here. And a recent survey, it was a survey on diversity, maybe you saw something about it, that was done. If you poll black Pittsburghers and white Pittsburghers about how they feel about the city, you would think you were talking about totally different places, because the black experience of this city is nothing like the white experience. Nothing. Nothing. And as up and coming as Pittsburgh seems to be, it ain't ever going to be a world-class city until it remedies this historic and stubborn racism and pattern of segregation. Never. So I just say that to take a little heat off of the Trumps here, because what they were doing, this is called what? Redlining and all, because there's words for this. Real estate in this city are still doing it. All you have to do is come here from out of town and contact a realtor. They know where to steer you. And they do. Why do you think cranberry's growing so much? Because people come in, they're told, oh, no, you don't want to live in, no. Schools are still being done. So, the real estate community here in Pittsburgh, guilty. Every bit as guilty as the Trumps. So I do not let them off the hook. I mean, as a talk show host and a reporter here for 35 years, I can recall, not in any detail, I assure you, many stories in my residency here that had to do with some realtor getting caught doing exactly this. Big realtors. The guys who own the big apartment buildings. Keeping those people out. And, of course, as we talk about the gentrification of my part of town, the East End, I mourn it because I'm drawn to diversity. I want diversity. If I find myself living in the city but living in a blindingly white area, my quality of life is going down. And I don't know how you people who live in blinding white suburbs, how you can stand it. I really don't. I really don't. The world doesn't look like that. I'm remodeling my house right now, and at one point, two girlfriends and I went off to Cranberry. We took a little day trip to Cranberry because there was a bathroom fixture place that was supposed to be the place. Do you know I felt traumatized after we came home? And we talked about it all the way home. We stopped at a restaurant, nice chain restaurant for lunch. And we're sitting in it, and it was crowded as hell. We're sitting in it, and I'm looking around. And I said to my friends, I said, does anything strike you as odd here? Yeah. Yuck. It's not like I hate my own kind. I'm a whiteface too. I just don't want... Ugh. Boring. And frankly, in the city, I can go to plenty of restaurants and sit, and I ain't seeing any black faces there either. All right, I'm sorry I got a little excited there. So I'm talking to, yesterday caller called when I was trying to make this point about age and how little kids inflate their age because they want to be older. So, yeah, I'm 5.5. When you're 40, you don't say I'm 40.5, right? Then you start trying to put the skids on. You don't inflate. Little kids inflate. And you know who else inflates? I just wanted to make the point a little clearer. People at the way old end. And if they don't inflate, their children do. So I was talking about a story that a man had written to the paper in which he said, my 101 3/4 old mother. He didn't want to deprive his mom of even 3 months of her remarkable longevity. And I do it too. Because I'm lucky enough to have such a long-lived mom. And you hear me say it all the time, my 93, and actually, if I'm doing the my 93.5-year-old mother. So I don't know at what point we start doing that. It might just be 90s. Once you hit 90, you start adding on fractions. And I'm not sure at what age kids stop and drop the fractions, but it's just a point I wanted to make that I found sort of interesting. And what brought that up is I was speaking to my 93-and-a-half-year-old mother last night, and she was getting ready to go out to dinner. And she was talking to me in this excited voice of discovery. And I was listening to her voice. For the first time, it struck me, her voice did not sound like an old woman. You know how voices sound old? Her voice sounded like it sounded all the time. Sort of like mine, unfortunately. It sounded strong. And she said, "Did you see that amazing story of that discovery in Kenya?" And I said, I don't think so. And she said, "They discovered skeletons that were clearly showed a massacre of people, men, women, and children, 10,000 years ago. They have never found evidence like that, where you have a whole bunch of skeletal remains that clearly show." And she is gobsmacked by it. I read more about it after she called because I had seen a headline but hadn't read it. It really is something. Think of it, 10,000 years ago. When we think of biblical times, I mean, that seems like so far back, it's hard to get your head around. 10,000 years ago is 5 times biblical times. And human beings were killing each other. The evidence is clear. The bones show vicious, blunt force trauma to skulls. I mean, skulls are found with like weapons still stuck in them, stone weapons stuck in them. A woman's skeleton, 10,000 years, is found bound, and they said she was pregnant. How do you know a skeleton was pregnant? How do you know a skeleton was pregnant? She was bound and killed. Men were killed. Women were killed. 6 children were killed. A teenager was killed. And here's what they can't figure out, because those of us trying to figure out who we are, where we came from, what human beings are, have always thought that warfare didn't start. We didn't start killing each other like that until we had something to be killed for. So until we had settlements and we owned land and someone else wanted it. But all evidence is that this was a hunter-gatherer culture, which means nobody owns anything. Everybody's out for their own. So it's freaking scientists out, this discovery, in many ways. And hang on, I just want to find the one thing that somebody said about it. It says something about us, doesn't it? So now we know 10,000 years ago, our ancestors were capable of that level of cruelty. And we've not grown. We've not grown anymore. Not a bit. Not a bit. So this discovery upends the theories of warfare that most anthropologists have believed. I don't know, what would that be? Anthropology? No, it would be, I suppose. They say they can't figure it out. Okay. Caller. Hi.
Hi, Clarence.
Clarence.
The last word you said when I was dialing the phone was, "It's freaking scientists out," which surprises me that it's freaking scientists out, because we are apes.
Yeah.
And apes go to war all the time. Fighting over territory, land, and all that kind of good stuff. That's what's freaking me out, was they were freaked out by it. If you look at chimpanzees, which are our closest relatives, they fight all the time. They go to war all the time in big groups. They pick up weapons and start smacking them, and they even eat the brains of their they do that kind of horrible thing. So I never was on the page of that we started warring over stuff.
No, I mean, and even, you know what? I mean, even the Bible, which I don't believe, has the second generation of humans, Cain and Abel, one killing the other.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just, I'm sorry, in our blood. Well, freaking out might have been too strong. But what they say here, there are different theories as to what led to war throughout evolution. Most scientists believe that battles really arose when humans were in settlements. And so to see evidence of this brutality in what was clearly a hunter-gatherer culture has upended that. Let's just put it that way.
See, I've always thought, I had always thought that, we started out fighting over,
Land,
we'll say resources.
Exactly right.
Yeah, and I said, and I think I made this analogy or metaphor, whichever one it is, that we used to mark our territory with urine.
Right. Right.
And I said now we mark it with doctrine and ideas. It's the same exact stuff, except we're going to fight for our freedom. Our Constitution. We're going to fight for our religious ideas. We're going to fight for it. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You're entering my territory.
Well, it's also, it shows the very human desire to identify with a tribe.
A tribe, exactly.
Yeah, right.
And that's why I always say what we have to start doing with our massive brains is pushing our tribes to number 2. Our tribe is our common humanity.
Yes.
All the other things are number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
If you think that first, that we're all human beings, then maybe we won't destroy ourselves.
Well, but you're an outlier on this, because most people don't have. That's just not the way we think. It's not the way we think.
Yes.
We identify with our own kind, and we don't see our own kind in people who have different religions, who have different color, who have different, culture.
Political ideas, for goodness sake.
Right.
The viciousness of the conservatives and the liberals is out of hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like you could be any color, any religion. But if you're a conservative or a liberal, it's crazy. So I think my other part of my analogy is that we used to fight with teeth and claws, and then we got our nice little stone tools, which was more efficient. Now our teeth and claws are like nuclear weapons. That's what makes it,
Yeah.
Very, very scary. There was one scientist who said, "We're not going to make it for another 100 years. We're not going to even make it." And I said, "I sure hope he's wrong."
But he might be right.
Yeah, and that's it. Not just with the weapons. When you get when you're getting down to biological weapons, and they're making viruses, just making them. Man, let's see what we can do with make a virus. If that virus evolves to something that you can't cure.
Yeah, and can't control. Right, that's it. So you don't know how, the end will come biologically or nuclearly or even through climate change, climate change will cause disruptions, social disruption, political disruption, which will cause war, which will cause crisis, which could then cause nuclear.
A little
microcosm
of the problem with water is Flint.
Yeah.
You can't. And I keep telling people, it's even bigger than religion in the Middle East is water.
Yeah.
There's no water there.
No. And there's huge droughts in large sections of the world right now that will create, again, huge migrations of people. Iran is suffering a huge drought. Much of Africa is. Whole hunks of Australia are. And we know, we've seen it even here in this country. That has repercussions.
The farmers and the people living in the rural areas moved into the cities because they couldn't afford, they had no water to farm.
That's right.
And that was probably the beginning of all this uprising and stuff.
I don't know.
So
listen to what one of these scientists says. You know, we read every day about acts of violence in the world. So I guess this behavior has been with us for a long time. Mm-hmm. Then he says, but I also think that we, humans, are unique in the animal world because we also do things that we derive no benefit from at all. People are compassionate and caring, and that is another aspect of human behavior, and that is totally unique to us. Okay, so he's trying to hang on to that, but I got news for him. I don't buy that. Because animals, we know many animals show that same. I don't believe that. Many animals show compassion and caring. And that doesn't necessarily benefit them individually. They reach out to help others, even another species, for God's sake. So this effort, when we're confronted with evidence of our murderousness, to still somehow pull us away and elevate us is bullshit, I think.
I think the way we are elevated is that we can imagine the future. That's, but the problem is that, you and I are sitting here talking about all the possible ways that we can destroy ourselves. We can imagine all these scenarios, but we never do anything about them. That's the advantage we have over animals. We can predict the future and try to do things to stop it from happening, but we don't.
Well, actually, I just want to put this in because Mike and Philly just tweeted something pretty damn interesting. He said, I read a recent article stating that scientists now believe that violence was a result of video games, rap music, and heavy metal. That's undoubtedly what caused the carnage there in Kenya 10,000 years ago.
You know what, though?
Rap music, that was it.
You know what? I could probably... I wasn't there, 10,000 years ago. Well, a few of my atoms were.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you they were screaming and hollering and probably beating sticks and drums and stuff like that.
So the violent music going on.
Violent music or violent sounds and all that kind of good stuff, which I don't know if you're as sensitive to music as I am. You play some sad music,
you get sad.
Feeling.
Yeah.
You throw on the bass, I start bouncing up and down.
Yes, exactly.
That it doesn't cause violence, but
no, music is so powerful. So my son got me for my birthday Monday. He got me David Bowie's album. And I haven't listened to it yet because I haven't been feeling well. And I said, Sam, I don't want to listen to this album about death, essentially, when I'm feeling like I'm next. I said, I'm waiting till I feel good.
You could tell Sam to go out and buy you, some of his older stuff. Because before Bowie even died, I probably played Fame every other day. I played music while I'm doing stuff I hate doing, like washing dishes, and Fame was always one of my. What's the first Bowie song that I heard?
Hey, by the way, he also got me a CD of a guy who I don't know, who I know is very famous. So this will show what an idiot I am, and I'm not sure which of his names goes first and which goes last. Is it Kendrick Lamar or Lamar Kendrick?
I think it's Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar.
I just know the name. You can name one of his songs.
He got me his latest album, and he said, and I want you to know, he said, he actually showed me. He found it on YouTube. There's an interview with Barack Obama this year. He's being interviewed by some black journalist who I had no idea who he is. And he was asking the president something about to pick between Drake and Lamar and Kendrick Lamar. Yeah. And which album did he like? And Obama doesn't hesitate, and he says, Lamar, come on. He said, Lamar, it's the best album of the year, he said. So the president's listening. The president is listening.
The president is cooler than I am.
And cooler than I am, so catch up.
I'm 2 years younger. I'm actually 2 years younger.
Okay, well, you better... You know why he's more in touch?
He has teenage daughters.
Exactly right. And that's why every once in a while, my son sort of keeps pulling me into what's going on. But you know what? I was thinking, man, if the right-wingers could see that the president was into that album, they would freak out. By the way, the cover of the album shows a bunch of black men, like in a huge group, on the White House lawn. And I can't figure out what they're all doing. I mean, it's some sort of like just...
A group of black men on the White House lawn?
Yeah.
Oh, they're gardeners.
No, they're not. I know. But some are holding, I don't know, bottles. Some are holding money. Is anybody holding? I mean, they're like out there. I mean, this is not a posed sweet picture. It is, I love it. And the president loves it. You got to check it out.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I'll check it out now since, I was told... by the way, I always jack my age up.
I always do too. Although I'm starting to wonder why, because it's getting way up there anyway. Yeah.
Just a quick aside about that. I was with my brother one time, and he's 4 years older than I am. And they said, which one of the two of you are older? He goes, he is. I was like, yeah, I am. because I'm definitely more mature than he is.
Well, in our family, I mean, it's true. My brother's the oldest, I'm the middle, and my sister is the youngest. And anybody who knows us would say my sister's the most mature, the youngest is the most mature, and the oldest is the least mature. And I'm close. So so that has nothing to do with with actual age, whether or not you're older. Okay, you.
All right. Have a good weekend.
You too.
All right,
Bye-bye. Bye. Oh, okay. What else I got here? By the way, Margie says I've got to put that Trump thing up on Twitter and Facebook. Can we do that?
The Woody Guthrie thing?
Yeah. So a woman, there's now a woman coach in NFL football. I mean, not head, but the first full-time female assistant coach. And it's Rex Ryan of the Bills who appointed her, and he first hired her when he was at the Jets and was just blown away by her work, and she just worked her way up, so that now he brought her with him to Buffalo, and she's now a special teams coach. Yeah. They always let the women in just as the whole thing's coming down. Okay. Robin Braddock writes, I don't know if you acknowledged this yesterday, but I hope you're aware of what Stacey Dash said the other day about her wish to shut down the BET channel and Black History. Now, who the hell is she? She's some right-wing nut. Who's Stacey Dash?
She played Char's best friend in Clueless.
She plays Char's best friend in Clueless, which means nothing to me.
You never saw Clueless?
No. She black?
Yep.
Okay, so she's a black actress, and she wants to shut down the BET channel and Black History Month And this is in response to Jada Pinkett Smith's boycotting the Oscars because, among other things, her husband, Will Smith, didn't receive an Oscar for his role in Concussion. What silliness all the way around. I mean, excuse me. First of all, why would you shut down? I don't understand. So she thinks like what? A network devoted to black entertainment and a month devoted to black history is every bit as offensive as the Oscars 2 years in a row not nominating a black person. She thinks it's all racist either way. Oh, God. Wow. So anyway, I don't know, Rob, and I'll have to look more into it. In regard to the Oscars, I'm with Tony Norman, who said in his column today, he can't wait for these Oscars because Chris Rock is the MC. And anyone who knows Chris Rock knows he ain't gonna let this go. You know, you can boycott it, but he's in the position of power at the show. And he will, I'm sure, rip the Academy up one side and down the other. I'm sure. But with caustic humor, I would imagine. I mean, what do you expect? It's a bunch of old white men. Why, they don't get it. They never get it. We got a call. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm okay. How you?
Good. I just have a question for you on politics. You don't think, I'm kind of a little concerned about this, you don't think Bernie Sanders is going to screw it up for Hillary?
I think it's possible.
I have a bad feeling, and I started watching it, and I'm thinking, what if he does become nominated, or he weakens her, and then she goes against one of those other kooks, and they win?
Yeah, it's
because
possible.
He's weakened her so much.
Yeah.
Now, you know what? That's going to just piss me off about Bernie Sanders. If you can't make it, you know.
Listen.
I don't know. At first, I thought it was good, but now I'm thinking, I wish the guy would have never ran.
Okay. Well, here's why. I mean, I'm thinking the same thing, and I'm wondering, and I decided you and I have nothing we can do except watch this thing play out. And we, I think, we already are in an election, national election, the likes of which we have not seen, right? Because, as I said, Howard Feynman said, it is conceivable that the Republican nominee will be Donald Trump, and it's conceivable that it could be Bernie Sanders on the other side, because Americans are clearly showing the anger, frustration, and rage they feel at the politics we have. And you show that rage by voting for the outsider, by voting for the non-politician, by voting for the anti-establishment politician, which Hillary is establishment. And I think you'll see. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Nobody knows what's going to happen this time around.
Now, I heard her say something the other day. It was pretty good, saying that Bernie Sanders is promising things that he
can't deliver. Yeah, that's true.
And if that was going to happen, why couldn't Barack Obama do it? If it, you know what I mean? So
no, you're
kind of like unbelievable.
You're exactly right. And I'll tell you what. There's a column in the New York Times today by Paul Krugman that says the same thing. And he says this. Obama found out as soon as he took office that rhetoric is not how change happens. So you can have this rhetoric and you can have this idealism and say, here's what I'm going to do. But then you get the office. And guess what? You have a Congress. And there's no way this will change. The Congress is going to be Republican. Not just Republican, but whacked out right-wing Republican.
Well, look what happened when
and
we
you
had
cut.
everything.
Well, I know, and so
we couldn't do it then.
No,
so
even
how
then.
The hell you think?
Right.
I don't know.
And Obama's not as far as Bernie is to the left. So if Obama could only do what he did with his totally recalcitrant and a Congress that refuses to act on anything, how can Bernie, no matter what he's saying, you ain't going to get your universal health care?
No.
Because that has to go through a Congress. The Congress will be Republican. So what Hillary is trying to get through to people is, hey, guys, I know it feels good to want these things and to scream and yell, but ultimately you got to deal with reality. And reality is it's not going to happen. So do you want this guy in the White House who literally can do nothing? Krugman ends his article this way. While idealism, that's who he considers Bernie, while idealism is fine and essential, it is not a virtue unless it goes along with hard-headed realism about the means that might achieve those ends. That's true even when, like FDR, you ride a political tidal wave into office. He didn't get everything he wanted. He was stymied left and right. It's even more true for a modern Democrat who will be lucky if his or her party controls even one house of Congress at any point in this decade. He said, don't let idealism veer into destructive self-indulgence. I read that and it made me, I don't know what to tell you. I hear your concern, and I think it is, it's understandable. As you know, I'm no great Hillary lover.
No, I can say 100%
but I'm not. I don't think that Bernie Sanders is got a chance of taking his vision and making it into reality. So I think you got to ask. I don't know, and I don't think, frankly, I don't know. But if it were Trump and Sanders, I think Trump wins.
Yeah.
Because Sanders has so many negatives, and I'll just name a few. He's old, remember? He's old. Okay, number 2, he's a Jew. Okay? A New York Jew. And number 3, he is an out-and-out socialist, which in this country is like being, Mao Zedong. I just don't... I think Trump would win.
Is she could win the rest of if he does take Iowa and New Hampshire, she could win the rest.
Why the rest? Are you going to count him out of all of it? I don't know. I think
he could do good in the South.
Listen, here's what's happening. She is freaking out because she's seeing deja vu all over again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
She didn't think for a minute that jug-eared, young, upstarty senator from Illinois with the funny name and a black skin could possibly. And we saw what happened. And so she started out thinking the same thing with Bernie Sanders. And lo and behold, I think it's finally clear to her and her people that they're in a fight. And it's going to get pretty ugly on the Democratic side now. And I don't know. You're going to see both parties just ripping themselves apart in these primaries. It's going to be something. And I said yesterday that her people now are expecting that she will not sew this up until well into the spring.
It was cute when he first ran, but now
well,
he could cause damage. And I hope he realizes that, too, that we could be stuck with a Republican because of him.
Well, I can assure you he does not. He thinks he can win, and he thinks he can
know yeah, you're right.
I don't know. It's, boy, the old Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times.
Oh, my.
These are interesting times, and they're scary because when you see this level of disaffection and this level of establishment parties looking like they're crumbling, or they don't have the power they had, they don't have the control they had, those kinds of vacuums and anger can lead to very scary outcomes. Very scary outcomes throughout history. I'm not going to start saying look at Germany, look at this, look at that, but seriously, if you know your history, you should be very nervous.
Okay.
All right.
We'll see you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, it's going to be a humdinger. Oh, God. Okay. What else? Remember Leona Helmsley? There's actually a big story in the Wall Street Journal today. Her will is still being contested. See what money does? It just makes people insane. You remember she absolutely cut out of her will most of her grandchildren, but gave her dog $12 million. Okay, what do I got here? Stacy Dash's reasoning. Thank you. Now, let me first say she's an idiot, says the writer. But what she's saying is this. If African Americans have their own things like BET, it's self-imposed segregation because it's black only. It's the same as having white-only stations, she said. It's not, though. I disagree with her totally. She said if they eliminate all black-only things, then blacks will be more integrated into white society. Like I said, she's a moron, but she is playing to the over 55 white crowd of Fox News. So her statements are moronic, but she knows how to play the crowd. I've often said that only about 1% of Fox News anchors actually believe the bullshit they spew. I don't agree with that. Then they're more evil than, if they believe it, I give them more of a pass than some cynical son of a bitch collecting a paycheck and saying stuff they don't believe. That to me is the lowest of the low. Anyway, he says Fox is all begging for Hillary to win so they can continue their theater of hate for more years. Nothing brings viewers in like hate. Nothing. Stacy Dash, whoever the hell she is, this is nonsense. It is not the same when a marginalized and historically and still discriminated minority group says, all right, if you won't let us in, then we'll have our own thing. You won't let us into your country club, we'll have our own country club. That's still happening. Jews couldn't get into country clubs. That's why there's Jewish country clubs. Blacks can't get in to this, so they make their own thing. Now, I think something like the Black Miss America pageant could be, because it's quite clear, I think now, isn't it? Or maybe it's still not an even row. But black is beautiful, and black women's beauty. I think that, maybe I'm being naive. I don't know. But a network that showcases black actors and black themes and things of it, go for it. Perfectly reasonable. Since all the other goddamn networks are white. How can a black woman not see that? All right. Okay. And I just want to point out, did you see UPMC is going to try to build a hospital right close to another AGH hospital in the South Hills? That's called redundancy. There's a hospital there, fully functioning hospital. UPMC wants to put a hospital there. Where is that, in Bethel Park or something? This is, they're despicable. This has Pleasant Hills. They're trying to put Jefferson Hospital out of business. Jefferson Hospital, of course, part of the AGH network. This is healthcare. This is a charity. This is a charitable institution that doesn't have to pay taxes because it's a charitable institution acting like the rapacious son of a bitch capitalist crapola. I can't even think of words that they are. Despicable. They did it in Monroeville. They are despicable. They pull out of... They're despicable. I'm not saying their docs are. I'm not saying their employees are. I'm saying the guys up there in the U.S. Steel building are despicable. And on that happy note... Did I sound like Sarah there a little bit? And on that happy note, I just want to say, have a good weekend. And snow angels, you get out there, okay? Toodles.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.